This is the 5-Minute Bible Talk with Reverend Kathy. Today we're looking at terms used in the Christian scriptures, more commonly known as the New Testament, the 27 books that talk about the story and the teachings of Jesus and the beginnings of the early Christian church. The first 4 books of the Christian scriptures, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, talk about Jesus and his life and his teachings. So let's look at some terms to see how not only how they appear as stories in the books, but also how those stories are alive within us. So the term Jesus, when we say Jesus, we talk about the man of Nazareth, the man who has a birth date and an end date, just like us, that human part of us, a beginning and an end. But when we attach the word Christ, Christ doesn't refer to just one person, but that which abides in us as that potential for perfection, that perfect pattern of wholeness, the divine within us. That was Jesus, the master teacher, came to show the way to allow us to have that light to shine forth. And so when we look at the Christ, Jesus Christ, that part of us that has no beginning, no end, it's part of that universal consciousness, the universal presence we call God. So how do we know what the Christ nature is? What is it composed of? What are the facets of it? And for that, we can look at the 12 individuals that Jesus called to him, the 12 disciples. For each one of them can represent a spiritual faculty, that inherent mental or physical power within us that is part of our divine nature. So let's remind ourselves that the 12 individuals that Jesus called to him to teach, to show them the way that they might go forth and teach even more. Because remember, Jesus said, these things that I do, you shall do also, and even greater things than these, came to show us our own divine potential. Anyway, let's remind ourselves of who the 12 are. There's Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon the Zealot, Thaddeus, and Judas. Now, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, looked at those 12 disciples and said, what do they represent? How might they be alive within the story of me? And so he attached to each one of them a spiritual faculty, a spiritual attribute. Let me share those with you and see if they ring. Simon Peter represents the power of faith. And you might say, well, he showed very little faith when he was walking on water and faltered. Jesus even said, "O ye of little faith." But it was Peter, when Jesus said, "Who do people say that I am?" Peter saw the truth of him and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus said, "On this rock I will build my church, on this strong foundation of faith I am." Peter's brother Andrew represents strength. John, the beloved disciple, represents, of course, love, that universal, unconditional umbrella that holds all of us. James represents wisdom. Philip, power. And not the power over people, but the power to withstand anything that comes towards us. We have the power to stand in our truth and hold strong. Bartholomew represents imagination. Thomas, understanding. Matthew, will. James, the son of Alphaeus, order. Simon the Zealot is zeal, that enthusiasm that carries and motivates us forward to do that which is ours to do. Thaddeus represents renunciation, that power to say no to that which limits our expression, to say yes to a greater understanding and expression of spirit. And of course, Judas then represents life. It's fun to, when we read the stories, to use these representations to see how that's alive within us, to expand our consciousness, that we might let more of our light shine. If you want to study more and dig deeper, you might want to pick up the book Heart-Centered Metaphysics by Paul Hasselbeck. And until then, allow the stories of the Bible to break open and to see where your story is alive within them. Blessings.